Jim Ritz and his first assistant, Kelly Wolford, and Assistant Victoria Porter, and the Ontario County Undersheriff, Mike Rago. You guys can come right in. Yep. We're here today to provide an update on the homicide investigation involving Sam Nordquist. While we are committed to transparency, this remains an active and ongoing investigation, so we may be limited in how many questions we can answer at this time. Jim?
Good morning. My name is Jim Ritz. I'm the Ontario County District Attorney. We are here to announce that this morning we filed an indictment in relation to the murder of Sam Nordquist. We'd like to thank our partners with whom we would not be here announcing the next step in seeking justice for Sam. The New York State Police, Ontario County Sheriff, the Child Advocacy Center of the Finger Lakes, and Ontario County Department of Social Services and Child Protective Services. The weeks of hard work have culminated in the charges that were lodged this morning. The next step will be an arraignment of the 7 defendants in county court. At this time, I'm going to ask Kelly Wolford, my first assistant district attorney, to come up and to share any of the further details.
Good morning. Today we filed an indictment charging the 7 defendants that were previously charged in this case: Precious Arzuaga, Jennifer Quiano, also known as Brooklyn, Kyle Sage, Patrick Goodwin, Emily Motika, Thomas Eves, and Kimberly Sosha, with a number of counts of an indictment that has been provided to you. The most important part of this indictment is count 1. Count 1 charges each and every one of these 7 defendants with murder in the first degree. This is New York's most significant and serious charge, and it carries with it the possibility of a sentence of life without parole. For those of you who are not familiar with New York State's criminal justice system, that is the highest level of offense and the most significant penalty under New York State law. Our state no longer has the death penalty. Prior to it being struck down, this would have been a death penalty eligible charge. Each of one of these people is charged with acting in concert with each other to bring about the death of Sam Nordquist. As you can see from the language in the indictment, Sam's death began on or about January 1st of 2025 until his actual death on February 2nd of 2025. It's a rare circumstance where we stand before you and charge this subdivision of murder in the first degree, where it alleges that somebody was tortured to death. It specifically requires that we prove that all 7 defendants tortured Sam Nordquist, and that they did so because they enjoyed it. That's what murder in the first degree is. Count 2 charges murder in the second degree. It's a lesser count. It doesn't require intent. But we also have 2 counts of kidnapping in the first degree charged against each and every one of these defendants. Kidnapping in the first degree also carries with it the possibility of 25 years in prison in New York. Each of the counts talk about what Sam had inflicted upon him during that 1-month period in time when he was tortured at 22 Patty's Lodge. Count 5 charges conspiracy in the second degree. Under New York State law, we have to set forth acts that were undertaken in furtherance of the conspiracy. This is a situation where now you have in front of you some of the things that Sam endured during his captivity. It's just a portion. It's just what we know now. And we expect, as the investigation and prosecution continues, that there'll be much more. But as you can see from the indictment, Sam was confined. He was forced to kneel and stand against a wall. He was physically assaulted. He was sexually assaulted. He was prevented from using his phone. He was denied proper nutrition and hydration. He was fed feces. He was forced to drink urine and chew spit. They physically restrained him. They forced him to obey their commands, treating him like a dog. They covered his face with towels and shirts and fabric. They used duct tape, and they poured bleach on him. Count 6 charges a number of the defendants with aggravated sexual abuse in the first degree. Under New York State law, that requires that you sexually assault someone using a foreign object. And then we get to the coercion charges. There's counts of coercion in the first degree charged against Precious Arzuaga. Precious Arzuaga is charged with coercion in the first degree for forcing a child who was 7 and another child who was 12 to engage in the conduct that's charged in this indictment. There's also a charge of concealment of a human corpse because, as we all have heard previously, Sam's body was removed from 22 Patty's Lodge and taken to Yates County, where he was dumped out on the side of the road in a farmer's field, wrapped in plastic bags, where they hoped no one would find him. The last two counts, counts 10 and 11, charge every person in this indictment with endangering the welfare of the child. Those would be for the 7-year-old and the 12-year-old. There have been a number of questions throughout the prosecution and investigation in this case as to whether or not this constitutes a hate crime. I'm here to tell you today that we charge the highest count that is available under New York State law, and this case is bigger than a hate crime. A hate crime would make this charge about Sam's gender or about Sam's race, and it's so much bigger. To limit us to a hate crime would be an injustice to Sam. Sam deserves to have this story told in its entirety. Sam was beaten, assaulted, sexually abused, starved, held captive, and we cannot make sense of that. We cannot put that on his gender, and we cannot put that on his race. And I know many will ask the question, why? Well, as I stand here today as a human being, we'll never know the answer why. Because what human being could do what happened to Sam? We'll never make sense of this case. But I will tell you, everyone standing in this room and every investigator, every child advocate, every member of the Department of Social Services, every member of law enforcement, work together to get to this point where we are moving forward for justice for Sam. The amazing job that we're all standing here with 7 defendants charged with murder in the first degree, barely over a month since Sam was reported missing, is quite frankly astounding. We as a community are here to seek justice for Sam, to help Sam's family heal, and to help our community heal from what is truly a horrendous act. Sam was put to rest yesterday, and today, Sam's mom and siblings are at peace, knowing the next step in justice for Sam is coming. I know you might have some questions. We are at the beginning stages of a prosecution. I'm somewhat limited, but as you can see, there are some very specific facts in the indictment. So we're happy to take questions, either myself or from any of the members of the state police who are here today. Yes?
You know, some incredibly disturbing details in the indictment as you read. Do you believe that any of this was reported? Is that part of the investigation that was ongoing?
So we've secured a number of telephones, a number of computer devices. There's an ongoing effort to download the devices and to obtain any information we can off of the devices. That is still part of the ongoing investigation, so I can't comment as to whether or not there is actually specific videos or photos. All I can say is that that is part of our investigation, of course, and we continue to follow that as a lead.
Now, are the relationships between the people in the state being investigated? Do you know more about that yet?
We know that they're all known to each other, that there are various areas, let me put this way. There are relationships among all of these people. We're all known to each other. There are some romantic relationships, there are some familial relationships, and there are some people that just knew each other from being around the area. So that only plays a role in this investigation to the extent that we know who was involved and how they all ended up at Patty's Lodge, room 22.
How are the two children related to Precious?
I can't comment on that.
Is there any indication that relations for the crimes happening or was it not any?
So we had no reports of anything happening within Patty's Lodge during the time that Sam was held captive there.
Was he held there the entire time or was he taken out of the motel?
Our understanding is that after January 1st, he was not free to leave. He may have left, but he left with someone taking him somewhere. But otherwise, he was not free to leave.
Is there any further investigation going into Patty's Lodge that this kind of was so prolonged, those tortures? Is there any investigation into if they knew anything about this?
There's no investigation specifically into Patty's Lodge with respect to allowing this to continue. This is a housing location. It looks like a motel, but these people do live there full time. So what happens in their home is not something that necessarily Patty's Lodge is responsible for. But obviously, we're continuing to look into whether or not there's witnesses that didn't come forward before. That would be an ongoing part of the investigation.
Thank you.
When coming from Minnesota, is Patty's Lodge where Sam originally went to stay, or was he kidnapped and taken there?
Our understanding is he came here on his own free will and was staying at Patty's Lodge on his own free will when this began. When I say this began, when he came to New York.
Is there any indication that there are more suspects that have not been arrested yet? Is the community safe right now?
There's no indication at this point that we're looking for an additional suspect. Obviously, the ongoing investigation part of this, we're still in the process of analyzing telephone data and talking to witnesses. If someone else were to come to light that needed to be charged, we would absolutely be charging them. At this point, we are satisfied with the fact that we've gotten at least the 7 main participants in this crime.
Are there any indications that any of the suspects have done anything similar to this before?
We don't have any indication that there has been an actual torture type of situation with any of the defendants before. 3 of the defendants have a prior criminal history, and we do know that there's 2 people were on parole at the time that this occurred, but they aren't similar in nature.
Any more details on the timeline of all of this? I mean, January to February, he was with this group of people, but I believe he was in New York in September.
All I can comment on is the fact that beginning when our indictment starts, which is January 1st of 2025, that's what we're able to say is when the charges began. And it's a continuing course over that period of time.
Is Precious or any of the defendants being looked at as a ringleader who brought the other 6 people together?
We are not looking at anyone as a particular ringleader because it's quite frankly not needed in our system. What we look at is each individual, are they a participant, are they a willing participant, and did they share the intent of the people who were acting? So in order for us to convict someone for murder in the first degree, for instance, we have to prove that they shared the intent to kill Sam and that they did so under the circumstances that are in the indictment, which they also had to have shared the intent to torture Sam and inflict the injuries upon Sam that ultimately led to his murder. So, you know, we don't have, in this circumstance, a need to have one person stand out as the ringleader. It's all of this group of people, all 7 of them working together to bring about his death.
Do we know how Patty's Lodge was determined to be the location chosen by DSS?
I don't understand your question.
You said DSS assigns this as like a housing unit, Patty's Lodge. Do we know how that process kind of looks and if that takes a play into why Patty's Lodge was the location for all of these crimes?
I am not able to comment on DSS or how they ended up housed in that particular location, or even that they were being housed by DSS in that location. I'm not familiar with that particular information. Yes?
Can you talk about Sam's family's reaction to the progress in this?
Yes, Sam's family was very happy. They're very tired, however. They've been through a lot in these last few weeks. They're glad that there is further progress, and they're hoping that this is the next stage of healing for them. But they're under a lot of varying emotions at this point.
Are the children in state custody now, full-time?
I can't comment on that.
When are they being arraigned?
We still are waiting for the arraignment date. The indictment was filed this morning. A judge will be assigned, and then we'll get an arraignment date. They're all in custody still, so it should be in the next week and a half.
You talked to the heinousness of having children participate in something like this?
Yes, obviously they're charged in this indictment all with endangering the welfare of a child, and that coercion charge is disturbing. To have 2 children have to participate in the beating of a human being, and it's deeply disturbing, and it has, I can speak for myself and everyone involved in the nation, been one of the most troubling parts of this. It's heartbreaking. We have a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old who are also victims. They may have been forced to participate, but their lives are forever changed by what they saw and endured in there. And so we're here not just for Sam, but we're here to seek justice for those 2 children also.
I'm sure you've never prosecuted anything like this before in terms of 7 people being charged with first-degree murder. How do you wrap your head around that and how do go forward with prosecuting this case?
Yeah, so no, I haven't had the opportunity to prosecute 7 people for first-degree murder. It's like with any other murder case, though. You have to just look at the evidence, and you have to keep an open mind and follow the evidence and make sure that you're working with your investigators and you're working with all the support people around you. Victoria Porter's here with me today. We're doing this together. And we just keep moving and keep organized and make sure that we are getting all of the lovely discovery information that we have out, because honestly, the state police did an absolutely outstanding job following every single lead in this case and doing so quickly. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. This is the beginning of the prosecution, but we just try to keep our head in the game, so to speak, and not try to think about what actually happened to these people, because you have to do that to survive when you see such horribleness in your job.
Because all 7 defendants are under one indictment, do you expect one trial or separate?
As it stands right now, if there was no motion to sever these cases, all 7 would be tried together. There could be motions in the future where they try to separate the defendants into different trials. That will remain to be seen.
Is there any indication that social services knew that he was being confined or that he was being controlled, that his phone use was being controlled, things of that nature?
I can't comment on that.
All right, any more questions? One more question? Okay.
Yeah. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.